But of all the unusual people to talk to, why would I call a Phoenix rabbi? Rabbi Pinchas Allouche of Congregation Beth Tefillah in Phoenix is helping out in Houston, I believe. Rabbi Allouche, welcome to the Hugh Hewitt Show. It's great to speak with you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
You know, my audience on KKNT 960 will know you, but tell people a little bit about your own congregation in Arizona and how you've stepped up to help the people of Texas out.
Okay, well, I'm the rabbi of Congregation Beth Tefillah in Scottsdale, Arizona, a large congregation of about 500 families. And as soon as we heard about the hurricane coming to Houston and the area, many community members got together to create a fund that would gather food, clothing, medical supplies, and even just gift cards to send to the community. We immediately also connected to the leaders of that community, and until this very day, the channels have been outpouring with love and support from near Phoenix to Houston, and it's really made an impact, thank God.
My friend Christina Cox told me the Meyerland neighborhood of Houston has enormous numbers of Jews and temples that they serve, synagogues that are served there. How badly hit was that area of Houston?
It was, unfortunately, was gravely hit. They say that 71% of the Jewish community in Houston has been affected one way or the other. Among them, 12,000 elders, and some 6,000 of them are over 75 years old.
So, oh, wow.
So, so it's been, unfortunately, severely hit. Also, 3 of the 5 major synagogues in the Houston area have been flooded significantly and are until this day not usable. And that's another way we try to extend our support by telling the Jews of Houston and of course everyone beyond that they're welcome if they can to make their ways to Phoenix, to our community in particular. We'll welcome them with open arms. You know, the Jewish high holidays are coming up, and these synagogues might not be ready for that most important time of the year. So we've been in touch with some families, and it looks like few families will be joining us for the high holidays because of this.
Now, Rabbi Allouche, back in Katrina, I learned, because my Presbyterian church partnered with a Presbyterian church in the submerged quarter, that it is these sort of like position communities that help each other best, not because they are more inclined to help Jew, or Presbyterian to Presbyterian, but they understand the need set better. Is that your experience as well?
Yes. You know, we feel a deep responsibility to help the other, and that's true. I mean, the community, especially, here in America, I would say, communities are very much connected in that sense. I would put it this way. I think I would put it this way. As a rabbi, I say this often to my congregants, but I think that life in general is not so much about what you want from it, as Viktor Frankl put it, but rather what it wants from you. Huh. And that's the way we're raised, that's the way we think, and that's the way we act. Now life has thrown this upon us, and we have to ask what it wants from us, and we have to respond accordingly.
I often go out on the road with my friend Dennis Prager, who's quite the student of Talmud and Torah. And what does it say specifically about aiding the victims of disaster?
Well, specifically about aiding the victims of disaster, it would rank them, first of all, as one of the priorities. There are a list of priorities of victims that one needs to help, and those victims are right at the top of the list. But in addition to that, it certainly speaks of helping victims that need our help most, especially those that have no one to help them, as it is right now in Houston. And there's a deep calling that we hear, that we have to heed to, because this is the case, because they really have no one there, and someone must step up.
I'm talking with Rabbi Pinchas Allouche of Congregation Beth Tefillah in Arizona, where they have partnered with a number of Houston area Jewish communities. What about the rest of the country in Jewry, Rabbi? Are they doing the same thing that your congregation is doing? Have they figured out that they've got to connect up synagogue to synagogue, congregation to congregation?
Yes. I mean, it's interesting because I have been in touch with so many communities from across the country, from Miami to Nashville, Tennessee, for example, and some others. It's moving. It's moving. I don't think there's any other word. It's moving to see the response of love and of support that I have personally witnessed. And I think that the response is not. I'm not just speaking about the collective response of communities in general, but also individual responses. For example, my son is in high school right now in Miami, and yesterday they had a social event, but they asked the teenagers to bring gift cards or dry goods to help the victims of this terrible hurricane. And when I see those personal responses, I'm just as moved as seeing the community ones.
Rabbi, I got to ask you, you're in Arizona and your son is in Miami, and now Irma looks like it's headed that way. I mean, it's still too early to say. 72 hours, lots changing. North, south, east, west, whatever it wants to do. So what are you telling him, having just seen the awful, destructive power of a Category 4 hurricane in the flight? Miami's pretty vulnerable to this. Are they making plans already to get going?
They are. I spoke to my son about this yesterday. I mean, you have to keep praying. We have to keep having faith that the winds might just change their mind, so to speak. But they are making all of the necessary preparation to embrace this if it comes their way.
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing country when we step back, and that's why I was so glad to find someone in Phoenix who's already doing this, because I've been talking to people in Houston who've been impacted, but not people outside of Houston who are funneling their efforts in. And it's just a pretty amazing country whenever this happens, Rabbi. It always inspires me.
That's true. That's true. I'll share with you a very quick anecdote. Speaking of inspiration, I was told that there was a couple who was planning their wedding on that weekend of the hurricane, and they had to change their plans. Their families couldn't come in from out of town, but they had all this food that they had ordered for the wedding, and they didn't know what to do with it. And the first reaction of this lovely couple, the names are Dana Skolkin and Josh Tillett, was to give that food away to all those in need in the disaster areas.
Wow.
It truly moved me.
It is. Well, our prayers for the safety of your son and everyone in Miami, and my thanks for spending some time with me, Rabbi Allouche, because your congregation in Phoenix setting an example for every congregation across the United States, whatever the denomination. Pick some partners in Texas, and maybe by this time next week, some partners in Florida or Georgia, and be prepared to connect and to help. And I appreciate your spending time with me, Rabbi.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Hugh.
Blessings on you. It's amazing to me, and I could do this all day, every day.